2, 3. Test, 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 test. 1, 2, 3. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Rural Crime edition of the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Well, as you all know, this is the 6th episode I am doing every week now. So I love podcasting because I can talk about the things that are interesting to me. I can put them out, and if it's not interesting to you, well then you can just go on right down the road. You know, we started out this show with just one episode per week, and now we've got 6 going on, and I try to put out something for everybody. I'm just very interested in agriculture, everything that's going on with it, and so I'm taking the opportunity to talk about it with you. And I love the fact that if you're like, I'm not into the rural crime thing, not worried about it, you can move on. You can catch up with one of my FFA episodes or one of my Friday episodes or something like that. So if you are still with me, thank you very much for being with me for this episode, and we will try to make it rousing for you. Well, let's talk about our tip of the week. So I think I had mentioned this before. I've just mentioned it generically, which is getting a driveway alarm. It's not something that I was ever super concerned about in our area. There just hasn't been much rural crime that I've heard about or anything like that, but I've been getting my butt kicked by foxes coming in and killing my chickens, and I started looking at these driveway alarms to see if they could possibly help me know when a fox was on my property, because I go out, I do my chores, my irrigation in the morning. If I got farm projects to work on, if it's the summer, I'll work on it in the morning, and then come into the office in the afternoon. If it's the winter, I'll flip-flop that, office in the morning, outside working on the farm project in the afternoon. So I've got a few hours of the day, every day, especially since I'm doing 6 episodes of this show a week, plus, the Pioneer Tour and all the other stuff I'm doing, that I'm in the office. I'm stuck in the office, and I have a window that looks out on one area of my pasture, but it actually does not look out on where the chickens are. So I need eyes all over the house if I'm going to be able to detect this while I'm home, because while I'm home, if a fox comes onto the property, I can take care of it, but only if I know it's there. So I started looking in to the driveway alarms to be able to pull this off, and they are used for that. Now, they advertise them as driveway alarms just because I think that's the primary concern people have. That's the primary area where they sell them. But if you start reading through the website and looking at the different applications, they talk about detecting predators and dogs and things like that coming onto your property. So I invested, and after I did my research, I invested in a system made by Guardline. And I got 4 sensors, and I got 2 base stations, I guess you could say. Now, the reason I got 2 base stations is I've got one downstairs where we spend our time if I'm not working in my office, and I got one for my office. Now, what's been really cool about this system is that these 4 sensors will all send a signal to both base stations. It was really easy to program it, and so I've got different chimes for different zones. I've got 4 different zones, and I've got 2 different base stations. So I put one sensor about halfway down our driveway. So if anybody comes and goes in the driveway, I get a certain type of chime. I know that's a vehicle coming up the driveway. Now, that was not something that had been a huge concern to me, but now that I've put it up and I've got it, it makes a lot of sense to me to have it there, because while I'm up in my office working during the day, if somebody comes down the driveway, just like if a fox were to come on the property, I have no way of knowing, but now I do, and that's good for a number of reasons. I'll tell you, it helps me with business. Sometimes I have guests come over to do interviews in the studio, and I'm up in my office. If I hear that chime, I can be ready for them. I can be downstairs. I can greet them at the door, and there's not a chance maybe I'm recording or something like that, and I don't hear the doorbell or something like that, and they're sitting there knocking, wondering if I'm home. So that is a good thing. I like that. And then the other 3 sensors I've got set up strategically out on the property where the foxes come in, and I've given them all the same alert. So those, if I hear that alert, I thought it would be easier for me to be effective with this if I had the same alert for any time a potential fox or a coyote, but right now it's foxes, came onto the property. So I've got that alert set up for the foxes. And so far, I have not had a fox come on the property since I put this out. It's just been a few days, but I can definitely see the efficacy. When Autumn goes jogging and she jogs past one of the sensors I've got set out there, man, I know right away. When she's coming back, I know right away. When people go up and down our canal, I know right away. And then I've got some cows in our creek area right now where I have 2 of the sensors, and the cows are setting off the alarm there. And so I know it works, and I'm looking forward to the day when it goes off and I start I get alerted, start looking out there, and I see the fox and I can take care of the fox. So that's my tip for you. You can use it for predator management, at least as one tool in dealing with predators. And it's more than just crime prevention. It's convenience too, to know when somebody's heading down your driveway. Because if you're expecting somebody, or if you're up in a part of your house where you're not going to know they're there, then you can go down and you can be ready for them. So the guard line driveway alarm, that's the one I got. I think it works really well. The sensor is set way down my driveway, way on the back of our property. And man, I can watch it. And when somebody goes past it, I get an immediate notification. So it works really, really well. There's multiple different settings. They're not hard to switch, not hard to set. And it's got the capability for when a certain zone gets triggered for it to turn on a device. So for example, if a zone got triggered, you could have it turn on a light or turn on a radio or turn on, something like that. Now I haven't gone that far with it, but it's got those capabilities, and I have no doubt that would work. So check it out. If you've been on the fence about getting one of these, I would say it's definitely worth the investment. It wasn't horribly expensive. It wasn't horribly cheap. I think I paid $200 or something like that, and I got two base stations and 4 sensors. And I think the standard comes with 1 sensor, 1 base station. So it's something to consider, but it's definitely been something where I've looked back now and go, oh, there's things I didn't intend to get this for that I have now, and I'm very happy that I got it. So something to check out, the guard line driveway alarm. And I'll tell you what I'll do. In the show notes for today's episode, I will put an affiliate link on the website for that through Amazon. And that way, if you're going to buy it, if you click through that affiliate link, then I'll get a kickback on that, which would be really, really cool. So if you're going to buy it, please go through my website and click on that. It helps us out here. Okay, so let's move on to our next segment, where the Second Amendment does not exist. So, of course, for almost all the time, we're heading over to the United Kingdom when I talk about this. I found this one interesting. And, man, anything that is not buttoned down, I don't know, to me, and I know I'm probably being naive here, but it's always extra disheartening when you see a story of a theft of farm equipment or animals or livestock or something like that, where it becomes obvious that whoever committed the theft has to know what they're doing, meaning they work in agriculture, and they're part of that low percentage of people who are still out there working in agriculture, and yet they're still victimizing the people that they've been part of that community with. To me, that is always disheartening when that happens. So this comes out of Farming UK. The title of this is Thieves Steal Specialist Farm Equipment Worth £9,000. Police are appealing to rural residents for information about the theft of high-value sheep farming equipment from a Rydale farm sometime between Friday the 4th and Monday the 7th of September 2020. Offenders stole a mobile sheep handling system and a sheep weigher, we'll just go ahead and call that a scale, from a farm near Hovingham, I'm not sure which. Specialist rural crime officers from North Yorkshire Police's Rural Task Force are investigating the theft. The 2 items, a Rappa mobile sheep yard and a Ritchie Draft Pro Wader, are worth a total of more than £9,000. North Yorkshire Police said the sheep handling system was not packed up, so the offenders would have likely had some knowledge of the system to be able to remove it. The cost of rural crime in the United Kingdom has risen to £54 million as criminal gangs continue to target farm machinery and livestock. Okay, couple things. One, they know how to pack it up. Now, does that mean they're necessarily a farmer? I don't know. I keep reading about criminal gangs, organized crime in the United Kingdom that are stealing things from farms. I mean, certainly if they're, let's say they're a notch above your typical impulsive criminal who just does something because the opportunity presents itself, then maybe they've got time to plan or research or something like that. Look it up on the internet or YouTube and see how it all goes back together. And quite honestly, you're out there in the middle of the night and you can't figure it out. You got a smartphone if you have service. You can just YouTube the thing. So I guess there's a chance these people were not former farmers. But what's really interesting to me is they keep talking about this in everything I read out of the United Kingdom. Criminal gangs continue to target farm machinery and livestock. And that's why the heading of this segment is where the Second Amendment doesn't exist. I've got to believe, you can make arguments, of course, whatever way you want about comparing the rates of firearm crime in the United Kingdom to the United States, and then saying one's got the Second Amendment, one does not. But when it comes to rural crime and agriculture, I just don't see the articles. I don't see any indication that we have anywhere close to as much rural crime here in the United States, at least it's being reported to the media, as they do in the United Kingdom. And especially egregious crime like what we're seeing here, gangs targeting farms. And I have to think that's because of the Second Amendment and the reputation and the perceptions and everything that goes right along with that. All right. Next one. This one is our second one out of the United Kingdom. I'll pull this up right quick. If I could operate my computer, I would pull it up right quick. And this comes out of Agriland, the home of United Kingdom or UK agriculture. Now this one is very interesting. This is a term that I keep reading, and I don't know what it is, so I looked it up, and now I know. The title here is Law Change Needed to Tackle Rural Crime, NFU says, National Farmers Union in United Kingdom says. As the cost of rural crime continues to rise, the National Farmers Union is urging the government to take action and treat rural crime as a priority issue. At a roundtable meeting between the NFU, DEFRA, Home Office, police, and other rural organizations, the union continued to press for legislative change that would make it easier for police to catch and prosecute criminals. It says here, as farmers reach the end of harvest, hare coursers will once again appear on remote farmland to carry out this illegal activity. Now, I have been reading this term of hare coursing over and over and over again, and I've had no idea what it meant. So I finally did the research and looked it up. And it is taking out two dogs and having them chase a hare, a rabbit, and score points and see who wins the competition by how many times they can get the rabbit to turn. How many times they can turn it. And if you've ever seen the movie Snatch, there's a scene of this in the movie Snatch. Well, apparently as soon as harvest gets done and the fields are cleared off, this creates the perfect conditions for hare coursing. And all of these organized crime, gambling operations are headed out to the country onto people's private property to have these hare coursing competitions with their dogs. It says here an NFU spokesman explained changes to the archaic 1831 Game Act would be a simple example of bringing legislation into the 21st century and making it fit for the purpose. Currently, legislation relating to hare coursing does not consistently give police and courts full seizure and forfeiture powers for dogs and vehicles, crucial elements of this illegal activity. So there's no teeth in their laws, pun intended, to deal with this over there in the United Kingdom. They also cannot recover kindling costs when dogs have been seized, and fines are capped at low levels. Now, what's interesting here is it says the impacts of rural crime are not just simply financial for a farmer, they are emotional and can have long-lasting effects on farm families. We must remember that farms are not just places of work, they are homes too. And then going down, it says that people have been attacked by people that are involved in this hare coursing. So it talks about the fact that attacks and conflicts with hare coursers go up after harvest because these people come out and they start doing these competitions. They're betting on it. The betting is illegal. The competition is illegal. And organized crime is involved in it. And it even talked about people being attacked and being hit with rocks and things like that when they came out to confront people on private property that were involved in this activity. So that's very interesting. Now, we definitely get people that go out and they trespass and they will they'll hunt on private property in the United States. But this is, to me, very, very interesting. It seems so very much different. All right, well, everybody, let's take a quick moment to acknowledge our great sponsors, of course, Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment, just the absolute finest in large livestock handling equipment. For over 80 years, they have been developing great squeeze chutes, sweep tubs, livestock panels for anyone who is handling cattle, and they've been doing it based on the cattle they know out here in the West coming off of rangelands, and those are some wild cattle. I know you will be very, very pleased with Powder River if you put them on your farm. And let's face it, if you're getting started up, you're trying to make it work for you, your capital expenses, you got to balance the amount you're spending versus the value you're going to get out of the product. You know, if you're going to save $3,000 and say spend $7,000 versus 10, but that $7,000 product breaks down and doesn't work for you in 3 years, then you might as well have spent the 10 on the better product. That's why I want you to go to Powder River. Not to say they're the most or the more expensive, but they are the ones that are going to be there 20 years from now. Your cattle genetics are literally going to outgrow your squeeze chute in 3 decades, somewhere along those lines, 4 decades. That has definitely happened. But that's going to occur before this equipment breaks down. So go on over to powderriver.com, check out everything they've got to offer you there. And then, of course, Lacrosse Footwear. You can find Lacrosse Footwear over at lacrossefootwear.com. Done right since 1897. Lacrosse Footwear has been making quality boots for hunting, working, and tending the land for over a century. A lot of World War II history with this company, which I love personally. We use the Alpha Range boots here on our farm every single day of the year. I just did earlier this morning. And I'll tell you what, you will be happy with them as well. You will love them because they're not going to break down. They are tough enough to do the work you need them to do, and they are comfortable, they are warm, and they are waterproof. So go on over to lacrossefootwear.com, check out everything they've got to offer you there, and get on down to your local feed and seed dealer, wherever you buy your work clothing and everything you need for your farm, and pick yourself a pair of lacrosse boots. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, let's get back into this. We'll jump over to our segment on rural crime in the United States. Now, this is something that's interesting to me. I wonder if we're going to be seeing more and more of this. Now, coming from Northern California, seeing stuff like what I'm about to read to you is not a shock to me. We definitely saw our share of this in different orchards, almond orchards, walnut orchards, and things like that when I worked as both a sheriff's deputy and a municipal police officer in Northern California. But this story is pretty bad. This comes out of the Oil City News, and it says, and by the way, you've probably already heard this story, but if you haven't, it's just because the news cycle is so dominated with other things right now. With 7 dead, California pot ranch is tied to organized crime. So, in Aguanga, California, in a legal marijuana growing operation where 7 people were fatally shot in a small rural Southern California town had the markings of organized crime, authorities said Tuesday. More than 20 people lived on the property, which had several makeshift dwellings, a nursery, and vehicles used in production. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco said marijuana was processed to honey oil, a highly potent concentrate made by extracting the high-inducing chemical THC from cannabis. All 7 victims and witnesses were Laotian, Bianco said. 6 people were found dead on the property, and a woman who was shot there died later at the hospital. This was not a small operation, Bianco said. This is a very organized crime type of an operation. Illegal grows are common in and around Aguanga, a single-stop sign town of about 2,000 people north of San Diego with horse ranches along dirt roads. Still, the scale of the Labor Day massacre stunned residents and showed how violence permeates California's illegal marijuana market. Okay, so that, and there's a lot, I'll link up to this in the show notes. There's a lot more detail in there that I'm not going to read. But man, that's the type of thing that's going on out in rural communities that we don't know about. These illegal grows, some of these things that are going on with cartels and things like that, and it can get deadly. It can get deadly, and it can shake up your lifestyle. It can shake up your sense of security living out in those rural communities. And certainly, we definitely found people who were tied up and murdered in orchards and things like that in Northern California when I worked in law enforcement down there. That happened from time to time. Generally, it came back to some form of organized crime, something to do with the Mexican mafia, with cartels, something like that. But this is interesting, and interesting that all 7 people that were murdered were Laotian. That's interesting as well. So anyway, I hope that is an anomaly and not something that's becoming regular. But with so many states going to legalize marijuana, and I'm not giving you my political opinion on it here at all. But with so many states going to that, I think it becomes muddier for law enforcement to determine what's legal, what's illegal. And so you see more of this stuff kind of happening in plain sight, or at least less concealed than it once was. All right, well, to completely contradict that horrible story right there, I have got a story from you that comes out of the Duluth News-Tribune. Now, this actually isn't a story. It's more of just it's not a current event story. It's more of just a story. This is written well by Michael Wilms, and the title is The Real and Imagined Transgressions of Farm Life. I'll read this to you really quick. I kind of like it. It says, not all of rural farm life is idyllic, but even the rougher sides can provide for stories that last longer than the outrage. Shenanigans that included petty thefts and youthful buffoonery caused tongues to wag in our neighborhood. Gasoline stealing, which by our opinion was done by outsiders, produced vows to lock their barrels. Farmers who grew sweet corn for the canning company complained about people helping themselves when the crop was ready, but no one, other than a woman thief whose car would not start as she attempted to leave, was directly confronted. We had something here locally. I'm off script. We had something here locally just a year ago. There was somebody growing flower seed, and I noticed they're not growing it again right along a major road, and people were pulling off and picking the beautiful flowers. Now, that's illegal. It is also ignorant, not realizing what they were doing. And obviously the flower seed was disappearing right into their beautiful bouquets. All right, back to the article here. Mother, who picked field corn and said that while it was not sweet, was still better than nothing, said that swiping a few ears among countless thousands was still stealing. It certainly is. It certainly is. Now, it's all on a gradient, but it certainly is. She also reminisced about earlier times when rascals tipped over outhouses. There was also the chicken stealer who angered people after he hit several coops in the neighborhood. The thefts continued for an entire summer until someone armed with a shotgun the Second Amendment. Okay. Someone armed with a shotgun caught a man leaving a coop with a gunny sack containing a few hens. It transpired that the thief had mental problems and the stolen birds were part of a weird ritual. Our weekly newspaper reported on dog snatchers working in the area. The canines were taken and then sold to institutions for research. A healthy farm dog could fetch $25. The neighborhood was shocked when a farmer reported that his pickup engine had been ruined when somebody had spiked the gasoline tank with sugar. He was certain who did it, but there was no proof. He and a neighbor had been in a long dispute, and the vandalism involved getting even. We sometimes made up our own crime stories. One involved homeless railroad riders who took shelter in a nearby abandoned farmstead. It was supposed that they were on the lookout for kids our age. It was easy to believe that our stories contained a kernel of truth on nights when the sky held a trillion stars and the wind rattled through the trees. Grim reality sometimes intruded on our make-believe. Such was the case when we heard that a neighboring dairy farmer had put a half a dozen kittens in a sack, weighted it with a rock, and drowned the kittens in a stock tank. His son explained that his dad was not cruel because their barn had been overrun with unwanted cats. We disagreed because his father was the kind who veered while driving to hit squirrels, cottontails, and even raccoons. Mother, who was unfailingly kind to animals both big and small, said we ought not judge. Our own cat population, which thrived on cow milk, strainer filters, mice, and haymow pigeons, expanded and shrank due to natural forces. Our cat herd, the correct word for a group of felines, is a clowder, and several kittens are called a kindle. Okay, didn't know that. Periodically was stricken with distemper. Wild tomcats that appeared to be 3 times larger than regular toms sometimes visited to kill kittens so they could have the full attention of females. An orange tomcat had finished killing a calico's litter before he was chased with the aid of a pitchfork to the empty silo where he met his end with rifle. I could not then nor now hit the broadside of a barn, which was a handicap when we hunted pigeons in the haymow with a BB gun. We hunted them, despite their reputation as rats with wings, for their meat. Mother put the dressed pigeons in a pressure cooker with a heap of dressing. Pigeons' dark meat was moist and delicious. Some farmers welcomed pigeon shooters to hunt, while others, fearful that their barn's roof would be filled with holes, refused them. The transgressions that occurred gave us something to talk about. Stories that contained a nugget of truth became exaggerated far beyond their importance. We were, more or less, an unofficial and colorful news source for our neighborhood. Now that's pretty cool. All right, it says here, Michael Wilms is the retired managing editor of Agri-News. He lives in West Concord, Minnesota, with his wife, Kathy. Well, I like that. That reminds me of some articles we've read and featured here on the show. I like that stuff, those images of what it used to be like on the farm. Really, really enjoy that stuff. All right, well, our next segment, everybody, chalk one up for the good guys. And hey, we've got 2 stories this week. Man, last week I could only find 1, but this week we've got 2. I'm happy about that. This one comes out of RFD-TV, the owners of Rural Radio and Satellite Radio 147 and FFA Today, which you can hear me on occasionally. All right, this article says, missing horse stolen in Navarro County, Texas, returned to its owner. Navarro County, Texas. A horse was found in West Texas after reported missing in Navarro County and was returned to its owner on Sunday, September 6th. The Navarro County Sheriff's Office received a call of a missing paint horse near Southeast County Road 3240 south of Cairns. Deputy Bates was aware of recent horse thefts in that same area and where a suspect had been arrested. The suspect had stolen 3 other horses from Bryan. Bates contacted the horse buyer in Bryan and asked if they would look at the missing horse's picture, where he then confirmed that it was the horse he bought from the suspect on August 22nd. The buyer, however, advised that he no longer had the horse and sold it in an auction house in Texas. Bates then made contact with the owner of the auction house and was advised that they sold the horse on September 2nd to a subject in Odessa and that the horse had shipped out September 5th. With the help of all parties involved, Bates was able to make contact with the buyer of the horse in Odessa, where the paint horse was stolen. The horse was reported safe and taken back to Navarro County to its owner. The suspect remains in custody on previous charges at the Navarro County Justice Center, will receive an additional charge of theft of livestock. Sheriff Elmer Tanner stated, I am pleased to say that with the combined efforts and hard work of all those involved with the past case, which led to this current case being solved, especially with the time that has passed, we were able to locate the horse and it will soon be reunited with its owner. So hey, that's great, and great job, Deputy Bates. Man, so many, it's sad for me to say, but so many officers, so many deputies would take the report and they would be done with it. But Deputy Bates, hey, you followed up, you did the investigation, you went the extra mile, and you did a good thing. So congratulations to you. Very, very good police work. Very good police work. All right, and one more. Chalk one up for the good guys. This comes out of KSBW 8. Coverage you can count on. And this is going to be somewhere near Monterey, California, I believe. Okay. The title of this one, Rare Horse Theft Arrest Made in Monterey County. Says here, a rare arrest for horse theft was made in Monterey County. According to the Monterey County Sheriff's Department, they received a report of a stolen horse on Friday night. Deputies responded and tracked the horse down to the area of Sanborn Road in Salinas, California. 41-year-old Thomas Alvarez was found with the stolen horse. He was arrested and booked on charges of grand theft. His bail was set at $10,000 and the horse was returned to the rightful owner. Well, there's not a whole lot of detail there for us, but who knows how they tracked this horse. I will tell you, they could have tracked him by hoof prints. It wouldn't be the first time. That's certainly possible. But who knows? Who knows how they did it? But hey, good job to those deputies in Monterey County. And I'll tell you what, they are dealing with a ton in Monterey County already. Even if it's just the wildfires, which we profiled on the Friday episode this week, they are already dealing with a ton. And for them to take the extra time to solve this case, make the arrest, and get the horse back to the rightful owner, that is a wonderful story. Well, all right, everybody. That is all I've got for you this week on our Rural Crime Edition. I hope you enjoyed that. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.